Hey Isaac, would you like another treat? I bet you do. This is Isaac, and he's a Tibetan Terrier, and something I learned they're not actually terriers. The British screwed that up. He's more like a Lhasa Apso. Is that what the closer analog? Okay. This is his roadmap to success. And as you heard in the first video, he in the very top one, he was barking up a storm. I think he thinks because there hasn't been, although the Guardians did have some rules and structure in place, they didn't have a ton. And I think they were petting him, and a lot of times that were confusing him. Anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing. And I think by petting him when he's excited or jumps up or doing some of the things we don't want, we reinforce those things unintentionally, the Guardians did. So now we know we're going to start petting with a purpose. Which is basically, if I want to pet him, just because I want to pet him, he's not doing anything wrong, I'm going to ask him to sit. When he sits, I'm going to pet him under his chin and say the word sit. And just sit, not good girl, good boy, or Isaac sit, or good sit, just sit. Every time, or if he's already sitting, I'm going to ask him to lay down and pet him and say crash. Or he just has to do something to change his state to get my affection. This is called manding, learning to man, as a dog sits to ask for attention from the human. So the more that we do that, after a while, he's going to start coming and sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. And when he does that, we want to make sure we pet him as well, because we want to recognize the good behavior. Most people will spend all their time focusing on the things that they don't want the dog to do, and then the dog says, well, when I do what you want me to do, you don't reward me, so why should I put an emphasis in that? So petting with a purpose is one of the easiest things you can do. It's going to take about a month for the Guardians to get in the habit of doing it. But if you do it, every time you pet your dog for the rest of the dog's life, it becomes a mini obedience training session because he has to do something to earn it. Something else we went over was passive training, which is simply narrating whatever the dog does. So the dog comes to me without jumping up on me, I would pet it and say, come. If he sits down next to me, I would pet him and say, sit. If he lays down, I would pet him and say, crash. A word I think the Guardian is going to transition to. So this way we're, again, recognizing and appreciating the desired actions and behaviors from the dog. So the dog now knows these are things the human can do, or that I can do that makes the humans, that pleases the humans. Petting with a purpose and passive training are the two easiest things you can do that will have the biggest impact on your dog, but get in the habit of doing it. And say paycheck. If you see somebody's petting the dog without a purpose, we stop petting, we tell him to sit. When he sits, we pet him on his chin, say sit. And then we can say to the other person, I asked him to sit before you came in the room, you just didn't see it. Paycheck just means I suspect you may have me saying the wrong thing. Now, because most dogs have a bunch of versions of the command words for every command action, I would recommend that we come up with a consolidated list of all the commands. And then if anyone's saying a word that's not the version of the word come here instead of come, we say vocabulary, the person says come. And this way it makes it easier for the dog to understand what's going on. Now, when I give a dog command, I say the command word twice. Sit as a command stage. When the dog sits, then I pet it and say the word sit after during the reward stage. I want to associate the action with the command with the reward. So that way the dog wants to do these things. Something else is I like to use an open hand like this. See how he's following my hand even though there's nothing in my hand. A cupped hand like this, now sell it. I see people go like that. He's not going to sell it. So pretend like there's a marble, curl your fingers up a little bit. And what I do is I go over their head. As soon as their butt hits the ground, I lower it, let him lick it off my hand, say the word sit, then I tickle under the chin to facilitate that nose up orientation we talked about off camera. Now, let me see, what else? But make sure we do this every time he comes to you. I was just about to yelp because he touches me with his teeth. And that's something I'd recommend you guys do. So if you're petting him, well, of course he's not going to do it now, but anytime he touches your, and then go back to petting him. So you just have that yelp, a little bit higher pitch, sound like more like a girl, and then freeze for a second, and then go back to petting him. He needs to learn anytime I touch the human with my teeth, even if it's an accident, it hurts them, and they stop playing with me. It doesn't obviously hurt us, we're mimicking, but it can hurt if he gets the wrong person in the wrong situation, he's too excited. He's a very excited dog, and I think that his Guardians are getting good exercise, but I just don't think the structure, I think this lack of structure was what caused him to think that he needed to be in charge of security, which you do not. So let me see. To help flip the leader-follower dynamic, we talked about a number of rules. Some of the rules would be he was allowed to be on this chair, but not on that couch, and they're right next to each other. That's very confusing for him. So I would just say across the board, he's not allowed to have be on any furniture for at least 30 days, or as long as the problems are still going on. And then after that point, furniture with an invitation and only for good behavior. So if he's on the couch and then he starts barking, he has to get down. Now every time we get him off the couch, we say we can do it one of two ways. We can either take a treat and toss it in the ground. When he gets it, we say the word off and pet him. Or we can push or pull him to the edge of the couch so he's kind of teeter-tottering. As soon as he gets off, we pet him and say the word off. Now, one of the things he does is if he is on the bed with the guardian and the other guardian comes in the room, he growls and barks at the other guardian. He doesn't do anything, he does it from that position. So he's not following through, but he's saying, I disagree. So, hey, you do that, there's a whole lot of floor for you to enjoy. This is a privilege being up here, not a right. And that'll help, like I said, the height will help them. Yes, you're a handsome boy. The height will help him see a distinction between the two of us. I like that guardians get in a habit of walking through him, not walking around him, so he gets used to deferring out of the human's way. We practice the door exercise. We did that off camera. If the guardian has problems with that, make sure you text me or call me. I can send you a link to a video I've done with another client that shows you how to do it. She did a good job. I think that just putting the painter's tape down at the line will help. And again, do not stop before you get to the line. And sometimes the guardian moves slowly to the line. So when you do it, move quickly, almost like you're racing, and stop right at the line. You want to have that like seem like Woody, I don't know, like the Roadrunner. He gets to the line, he goes, and he stops, and he's like vibrating. That's how quickly, but you have to de-accelerate. That's how we establish invisible boundaries. Now, we're going to practice things to help him develop the behavior we want. So, like, for example, the video that we had showing one of the daughters eating a snack. So we're helping him learn that when there's a snack present, I'm not allowed to be on the carpet. The rest of the time, I can be on the carpet just fine. Same thing with dinner. We can practice the dinner table, get a piece of roast beef, microwave it, set the table. Everybody sit down in their normal places. But instead of we actually serve the meal first, we're going to cut up little pieces of roast beef and put it on everybody's plate. We're going to practice keeping him off the carpet around the dinner table. And then once he is good with that, then we put all the roast beef to the side, and then we serve our actual meal. We do a warm-up. Yes, there's just kids barking upstairs. Now there's, I think the guardian may need to have me come back out to work on him reacting to these sounds, as well as cars are going by. It's the same technique. So if you want to, I'd rather you focus on this stuff for a month and really get this stuff hammered out. When you're done with this, give me a call. We'll come out and set up a 1-hour session. We'll work on just counter-conditioning him from sounds. So he doesn't bark when the doorbell rings, he hears people on the street, or he hears the kids walking around upstairs. I think a lot of this is a residual of him thinking he has the security dog. So hopefully, as we enforce rules consistently, he's going to be better and better at it. Now, we use the escalating consequences to disagree, like I just used the first one there, and it stopped him from barking at the car that was passing by. Make sure you use those escalating consequences of hiss, stand, march, and then leash timeout. And if you forget how to do those, message me. I can send you links to videos for that as well. Let me see, what else do we go over? Other rules. The dog has to sit before we go through a door. When we're going on a walk, he has to sit at the door. He also gets very excited, and let me back up. So if I go to the door and I say sit, and he doesn't sit within about 3 seconds, I walk away. Sit down somewhere else and look like you're enjoying life. Don't say sit multiple times. Don't get angry. It's best to, I'm trying to do 2 things at once. We'll do them one at a time. So basically just walk away from the door 1 minute and come back and tell him to sit again. If he doesn't sit this time, I walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. So each time he doesn't comply, he has to wait twice as long before we're generous enough to give him another opportunity. And eventually, he'll just go and sit at the door as his way of saying, I want to go out. Don't let him go through the door first, because then he's again in the leadership position. We went on a walk. We used the martingale with a special twist of the leash. The guardian was pulling backwards and also slowly and in a too late and too slow. So you want to pull and correct before he gets too far in front. Remember, his shoulder should be aligned with your hip. And we're going to pop it and immediately take the tension off the leash. If we hold the leash, he's going to pull against it. It will activate that opposition reflex. So remember, when we're walking, and this is for a structured walk only, because he does not have a backyard he gets to run around in. He needs a walk or two where he gets to walk around, sniff, and do his thing. For the structured walk, I probably do like 50% or 75% of the structured walk, and then if he does well, the last 25%, I let him sniff around and do his things. 5 rules for a structured walk. First of all, stay in your position. His shoulder should be aligned with my left hip, because his guardian is letting him walk in the left side. My rule number 2 is when I correct, I'm going to go up really quick with the leash and then go down faster than you go up. So there's only the tension of the leash for like a fraction of a second. Rule number 3, keep your arm loose like spaghetti. If you're pulling it back, which the guardian was doing a lot of, you're going to put tension on the leash and he's going to pull against it. Rule number 4, no stopping and sniffing. Now, a dog can sniff, and say a dog cannot sniff would be cruel. But if I'm walking and he stopped to sniff something and I stop, then he's telling me what to do on the walk. He's in a leadership position. If he's doing well in the walk, you want to stop and let him sniff a little bit, that's okay. But if you let him pull towards or walk away and he pulls and you stop, then you're telling him, yes, I listen to your commands. And so he can sniff as long as he's walking, but he can't stop and sniff unless you want him to. Rule number 5 is no marking, because everything he pees on between his house and the furthest way that he marks is his territory. That will make him more reactive. I really think that the rules and enforcing the rules around not being around any human is eating food, having to sit and wait at the door, having to eat after the humans eat, not being allowed on the kitchen table, having to sit behind the door. The more these, the guardian gave me a funny mom look because she hears her kids doing something, probably getting in trouble, but she has to film this. So we're going to wrap this up quickly. But the more the guardians enforce these rules, the more the dog's going to see them acting as a leader and allow Isaac to feel like, I don't have to do this job for my guardians. They can do it for themselves. I can just go back to chasing the ball or whatever the case may be. Use the dog bed technique that I went over and have a dog bed in every room that you hang out in and with a different designation so he understands. You can direct him there if we need to. I'm trying to think what else. Make sure you let me know. He has a bit of a lump that I discovered under his chin. Let me know what I know his vet. Actually went to elementary school with her, and so I'm curious to see what she has to say about that. But the petting with a purpose and passive training are the 2 easiest things. Also the chocolate. Remember, I come up with a little way for the kids to earn chocolate. Each kid has a jar with their name on it. Every time the kid comes up and says, Mommy, I petted with a purpose. I petted him when he went to his dog bed. I petted him for doing this. We take an M&M and we go drop it in the jar. And if we see the child doing something they're not supposed to do, they're hugging the dog. Oh, I have to take an M&M away. Do you want to do something to earn this M&M back? Sit, and he pets him, then we put it back in the jar. Something else, because one of the girls really likes hugging him. Dogs generally do not like being hugged. I would have a rule that when he's on his dog bed, he is safe. We cannot interact with him on his dog bed. You can stand a couple feet away and call him, and if he comes to you, that's okay, unless that becomes prohibitive, then you might even not allow that. But this way the dog knows if I'm overworked, I can go to the dog bed and I'm safe. He's nipped a couple times just in a corrective way, but I don't want, that's often associated with him thinking he's in a leadership position. If he feels like, hey, if the girls are being too much for me, I go to my bed and I'm safe, then he feels empowered. He doesn't have to nip because he can just move himself to a safe location. We didn't get a chance to go through feeding. What I do is I put food in the bowl and I guard it the same way that I was doing earlier over here off camera and the same way you're doing for the door. Now, if you have a small room, if it eats in the kitchen or it eats in the dining room?
Dining room.
I would maybe move it to in the kitchen if you can, so it's a small door, it's easy for you to defend. Put food in his bowl, don't let him in the kitchen, and then walk back so that you're like, the bowl's there, the dog's there, and I'm back here. So I'm not between him and his food. And then I get a chip or a cracker or something I can eat in 5 or more bites. And if the dog crosses that threshold, I rush towards and I keep on backing up the same way we did here at the door. And eventually he will sit at the line, or he doesn't have to sit, he just can't cross the line. And as soon as I get done eating, then I invite him over to eat. When he comes over, when he takes his first bite, I would say the command word for eat. So I say grub, chow, feast, and eat for one of the dogs. I didn't come up with eat. I like fun command words. One-word commands are always best. And so when he takes his first bite, if we say chow, after about 2 months, you can say chow, and to him, chow means I have permission to eat my food. That's using passive training. So that's a great way for him to develop a little bit more self-control. I can go to the food. There's nothing blocking me from getting to the food other than knowing that I'm not allowed to go there and I have to follow the human's rules. And after a while, I can get to the point where my dog I forget I'm feeding him unintentionally, but I've had dogs wait 2 hours, 10 feet away from their bowl. I'm on the other side of the house and they don't eat it. That's great self-control. I think he's been in such a habit of barking. I wouldn't disagree so much with the barking initially. Hopefully that will dissipate as we continue and we start enforcing the rules, petting with a purpose, and helping him go off duty. But practice the door exercise. Call or text each other when you're coming home. Be prepared, put everything up, and just act like you're watching TV or finger painting or whatever it is. But when you answer the door, do it very casually, move him away from the door, breaking down individual steps. Anything else that he doesn't behave well, ask yourself, what is he trying to accomplish? Because that sometimes helps you, knowing what his motivation is, helps you come up with a scenario that can help. And then break the activity into small individual steps in a classroom type setting. So we did it for when she was eating a snack. Mom was not cooking or doing something else. Mom was here to watch. And so as soon as the dog breaks the rule, we can correct. And we eventually teach the dog the behavior that we want is to stay off the carpet when we're eating. The behavior we want at the door is to stay away from the door. Behavior we want when we're eating food is to do this. So again, when we have kids, we teach them how to have table manners or how to talk politely, and all these fun things that we do that we need for social skills. A lot of times we forget to do these for dogs. So if the dog has a behavior problem, recreate the situation, but peel back some layers. Don't have the whole thing going on. Maybe we take 5 elements away and help the dog practice just one element. Once it's practiced that one, behaving the way we want for that one element, we add an element 2. Now it's going to start doing the wrong thing. We practice that over and over again until he behaves with behavior 2, element 2, until we can eventually add all of the behaviors back together, and then the dog knows how to do the whole thing all at once. Now, like I said, if for the sounds, if he continues with that, after about a month, call me. It'll be a 1-hour session. We'll set up, I'll show you how to do counter conditioning. I can set it up so the doorbell will ring and he won't make a peep. Or the kids are running around upstairs. But I think a lot of this is he thinks he's on duty. So once we can help him go off duty, I don't think he'll feel it's his job to correct all those things. Isaac, what do you think? That was a long day for you, huh, buddy? I know it's hard for you to see with those bangs, but they're awfully good looking. That's a breed thing. All right, this is Isaac's road back to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it, right? See you in the funny papers.